Chapter 5. Alicia focused on her breathing. Nothing else mattered but her breathing. She had turned off her car, and now all she heard was the flow of traffic behind her. Alicia tried to find the rhythm in the sound and tune it out. Then she tried to relax her body. She was safe. No one was hurting her. It had been over 2 years since her last major panic attack. She thought she had them under control, that she had finally taken back her life from the night that had changed everything. At first, she couldn't go out in public. She never made it back to school. She had moved back in with her parents and shut herself in her room, only going out for doctor visits and therapist visits. She worked hard to pull herself together, knowing that she had to be strong for her child, more than her parents had been for her. She would love her child no matter what. She knew what it was like to grow up different, and she would not let her son feel the pain of rejection that she felt from her parents. She got a job, one that paid just enough to let her save and move out. It was a patchwork of dead-end jobs that fired her when she lost the cheap childcare she could find, or when a panic attack happened at work. She was moving up, improving her life. It may have been slow, but they were finally doing okay. Except now she was unemployed again. Then she found herself back in front of the place that had taken so much from her. Staring at the building, she couldn't help but wonder, why had no one seen her get dragged out of the bar? Did no one care, or was there more going on? It was a question that had been nagging at her mind for years. Now she wondered if this was something that could help her son. Could her son conjure up a dragon, heal a kid's arm, or make a garden suddenly sprout a full crop? It was ridiculous. Her son didn't have magic. The school must be delusional. But sitting in front of the building, she couldn't help but wonder. What could it hurt to ask? Most likely nothing would come of it. It was nearly 9 years ago. If she left without trying, would she blame herself for not doing everything she could for her son? Maybe something else was going on that night. Even as she thought it, she knew that it was a desperate act. Magic only happened in the stories that her son read. But didn't she owe it to her son to at least try? But try what? It was then that Alicia noticed the delivery truck parked in the parking lot. She got out of her car and walked over to the side of the building. Her heart began to pound again. There, right up against that wall, was where it all happened. Alicia kneeled, trying to catch her breath before she passed out. She could feel his hands on her again, and the hopelessness threatened to overwhelm her. I survived, she told herself. I choose to keep surviving. She told that to herself until she started to believe. When she could breathe again, she noticed the side door propped open. If there was someone making deliveries, then there was someone inside the bar. She owed it to her son to at least ask if anyone knew his father. It was improbable, but maybe if he was a regular, they would remember. Or maybe there had been other girls, ones who came forward and left an impression and would lead her to more information. However, as much as she was doing this for her son, she also knew she owed it to herself to finish facing this demon. She had made it this far, and she knew she would be strong enough to finish. Taking another deep breath, she walked into the bar. From the outside, the club looked like it would be no bigger than a small grocery mart or clothing store. Then she stepped inside, and the room opened up. The ceiling was high and had exposed pipes running the length of it, like a warehouse store. In the back, there was a stage large enough to hold a full band. The floor was empty, and all the tables and chairs were stacked against the wall next to the bar. It was brighter than she remembered, with sunlight streaming in through the door and the windows high up on the wall. Without the music and flashing lights, it seemed less ominous, but the size still didn't seem right. There was too much distance to the far wall. They must have designed it well. "I'm sorry, but we are closed. We won't be opening for hours." Alicia started at the voice. She looked around and finally found a man standing behind the bar, holding a box of bottles. He had on a tank top that highlighted tattoos running up his arms and under his shirt to his chest. She was caught up looking at the designs before she remembered that would be considered rude. "Oh, I know. I was hoping you could help me," Alicia finally said. "Did you leave something?" He put the box on the counter and then bent down to pull out a battered cardboard box. "What? No, I just had a question about someone who used to come here." She stood unmoving, except for her eyes that drifted to the bottles lining the shelf, as they occasionally glistened in the light reflected from the metal pipes. Are you a cop? No, nothing like that. I I know it is not likely. I'm just looking for my son's father. I met him here about 9 years ago. She reached into her pocket to grab her phone, but pulled her hand out when he started stepping back. Sorry, I was just grabbing my phone. Right, of course, he said, but he stayed where he was, watching her closely until he saw the phone. Then he seemed to relax slightly. That is a long time to be asking about someone. I know it isn't likely. My son has a medical condition, and I need to find out some information about his father. I don't want anything from him except to ask him some questions that may help my child. Alicia hated lying, but for some reason this did not feel like a lie to her. You have a picture? He moved towards the bar and held out his hand for her phone. At the invitation, Alicia stepped towards him. I have my son's picture. I know it is not much, but he looks just like him. Another truth that Alicia had tried hard not to think about over the years. She pulled out her phone and opened her photo gallery. It was all pictures of her son. She picked the one with his smiling face and handed over her phone. It was May, not quite 9 years ago. The man was dressed in all green, with the same brown hair and the same easy smile. Is there any chance you know anything about him? The man took a long look at the picture and then turned to take her in. I'm sorry, but I can't help. Unfortunately, I don't recognize anyone who looks like your son. Thank you anyway. I knew it was a long shot. Can I leave my number with you in case anybody thinks of something? Yeah, sure. He reached below the bar and pulled out a pad of paper and a pen. Alicia wrote down her first name and her cell phone number. Then she wrote down the date, hoping that that may help as well. If anyone thinks of anything, we will give you a call. Thanks again. She walked out of the bar, wishing not for the first time that she was better at reading people. She was pretty sure that he had lied, but people were so complicated it was hard to know for sure.